The year is 1942. Across the Atlantic, the sea is bleeding. German U-boats, swift and silent, stalk Allied shipping lanes like wolves in the dark. Merchant vessels burn on the horizon, their smoke rising as black tombstones over the ocean. Every night, dozens of ships are sunk. Every day, the tonnage lost mounts faster than Britain and America can replace it. The Atlantic, once a symbol of connection between continents, has become a graveyard of steel and oil. And at the center of this disaster stands one haunting question. How do you fight an enemy you cannot see? For the Allies, the Battle of the Atlantic isn't just a military campaign. It's survival itself. Britain's food, fuel, and munitions depend on convoys crossing that vast and merciless sea. If they fail, Britain starves. And if Britain falls, America will stand alone against Hitler's Europe. At the heart of this struggle, the United States Navy faces a crisis of innovation. It has power, it has ships, and it has courage. But what it lacks is flexibility. The fleet carriers, the pride of American naval aviation, are magnificent but few. Each one takes years to build and costs tens of millions. They can't be everywhere, yet the need is everywhere. Convoys need air cover desperately. But from the icy waters off Iceland to the burning equator, the distances are simply too vast. Once ships sail beyond the range of land-based aircraft, they are blind and defenseless. It's here, amid the chaos and desperation, that a quiet revolution begins. A new kind of ship will rise, smaller, cheaper, and faster to build. Not a battleship, not a fleet carrier, but something different, something improvised, the escort carrier. At first, the idea seems absurd, even laughable. Take a cargo ship, cut off its upper structure, and bolt a flat wooden deck across the top. That, they say, will be an aircraft carrier. Naval purists call it madness. Admirals sneer, calling them Woolworth carriers, after the discount stores, cheap, fragile, expendable. But necessity, not pride, will decide the war. In early 1942, the first prototypes begin to emerge from the shipyards. The USS Long Island leads the way, followed by the Bogue class and Casablanca class. These ships are crude, noisy, and slow. They carry only a dozen aircraft, with decks barely long enough for takeoff and landing. But they are fast to build. So fast that entire shipyards can produce one in just a few months. Behind the steel and rivets stands America's industrial miracle. Henry Kaiser, the legendary builder who mastered mass production of Liberty ships, turns his genius toward the carriers. Assembly lines roar to life. Thousands of men and women, welders, riveters, machinists, work day and night, creating ships faster than the enemy can sink them. Each escort carrier becomes a small island of air power at sea. On their decks, stubby Grumman Wildcats and Avenger torpedo bombers prepare to take off. Crude tools in the hands of ordinary men performing extraordinary missions. Their duty: protect the convoys, hunt the hunters. The idea is simple, yet revolutionary. Instead of waiting for U-boats to attack, the escort carriers will go to them. By mid-1943, the first hunter-killer groups form. A carrier, escorted by destroyers and frigates, prowls the Atlantic, searching for U-boats using radar and sonar. For the first time, the balance begins to shift. A single aircraft can now spot a U-boat on the surface before it strikes. Bombs, rockets, and depth charges rain down. Crews who once hunted with impunity now become the hunted. But these victories are not without cost. The Atlantic remains a cruel teacher. The weather alone is an enemy. Winds strong enough to rip aircraft off the deck. Waves tall enough to bury the entire bow. Men freeze, engines stall, and planes vanish into the sea without a trace. Still, they endure. Because they know the stakes. Every convoy that arrives in Britain means more food, more fuel, more ammunition, the lifeblood of resistance. Every U-boat destroyed means fewer widows back home. And the numbers begin to tell the story. In 1942, Allied losses reached catastrophic levels. Nearly 8 million tons of shipping sunk. But by late 1943, the tide begins to turn. With escort carriers patrolling the Atlantic, U-boats start dying faster than Germany can replace them. Admiral Karl Donitz, commander of the German submarine fleet, faces a nightmare he cannot stop. His once invisible hunters are now exposed, tracked from the sky, their positions betrayed by radio intercepts and radar blips. The hunters have become prey. Yet even as America's new ships rise, a quiet tension brews inside the Navy itself. Traditional admirals still see these carriers as second-class, tools for escort duty, not battle. But history will prove them wrong. In the Pacific, where the ocean stretches for thousands of miles, the escort carriers find a second life, supporting invasions, resupplying task forces, providing close air support for troops. They become the backbone of a logistical empire. But in 1943, no one could yet imagine that these small ships would one day hold the fate of entire battles in their decks. For now, their war is fought in gray skies, cold seas, and the endless rhythm of waves and engines. Each day, pilots take off, knowing that a single mistake means death. Each landing is a gamble against the wind, the sea, and exhaustion. Yet they fly, again and again. They are the forgotten warriors of the Atlantic. Ordinary men flying from ordinary ships who performed extraordinary deeds. And slowly, the Atlantic begins to quiet. The U-boats that once ruled the waves now hide beneath them. Convoys that once sailed in terror now reach their ports safely. By 1944, the escort carrier is no longer a curiosity or an experiment. It is a weapon, a symbol of American adaptability, of how necessity can give birth to innovation. But even as the tide turns in the Atlantic, a new storm gathers in the Pacific, one that will test the escort carriers beyond anything they faced before. For in the vast waters near the Philippines, these small ships, once mocked and dismissed, will stand alone against the full fury of the Imperial Japanese Navy. And there, in the battle that will come, they will prove that courage, not size, defines power. It is a weapon, a symbol of American adaptability, of how necessity can give birth to innovation. But even as the tide turns in the Atlantic, a new storm gathers in the Pacific, one that will test the escort carriers beyond anything they faced before. For in the vast waters near the Philippines, these small ships, once mocked and dismissed, will stand alone against the full fury of the Imperial Japanese Navy. And there, in the battle that will come, they will prove that courage, not size, defines power. The Pacific, an ocean so vast it defies imagination, a blue infinity stretching from the coasts of California to the shores of Asia. Here, the sea is not merely a battlefield. It is a world unto itself. Islands dot the horizon, like stepping stones across eternity. Beneath the calm surface, submarines prowl. Above, the sky burns with fire and metal. By mid-1944, the war has shifted. Germany is retreating in Europe. But in the Pacific, the fight is far from over. Japan's empire still sprawls across the Pacific Rim, from Burma to the Marianas, from the Philippines to New Guinea. Every island is a fortress, every coral reef a trap, every wave hiding death. And now, the humble escort carriers, once built to guard convoys, are called to a new duty. They are no longer mere escorts. They are invasion spearheads. In the Philippines, General Douglas MacArthur prepares to make good on his promise. I shall return. But to return, he needs the sea. And to command the sea, he needs air cover, constant, close, and reliable. The big fleet carriers are far to the north, striking at Japan's main forces. The job of protecting the invasion beaches falls to the small ones, the escort carriers. They gather in Leyte Gulf, a vast bay ringed by jungle and mountains. The date is October 25th, 1944. The morning begins quietly, too quietly. On the decks of the escort carriers, pilots eat their breakfast, mechanics check the fuel lines, and signalmen watch the horizon. The sea glows gold in the dawn light. Few know that beyond that calm horizon, one of the largest naval battles in human history is about to begin. The Japanese Navy, desperate to stop the American invasion, has launched a massive counterattack, a complex plan involving multiple fleets converging on Leyte from different directions. Admiral Takeo Kurita commands the center force, a powerful armada of battleships and cruisers, including the mighty Yamato, the largest battleship ever built. His mission: to break into Leyte Gulf and destroy the invasion fleet. But to reach it, he must pass through the narrow waters of the Philippines, where 7 tiny escort carriers and their handful of destroyers wait, unaware of what is coming. They are known as Taffy 3. Their carriers, Fanshawe Bay, White Plains, Kalinin Bay, Kitkoon Bay, Gambier Bay, St. Lo, and Suwannee. Each carries maybe 24 aircraft, Wildcats and Avengers. Light planes meant for ground support, not for fighting battleships. Their destroyers are few and lightly armed. They are outnumbered, outgunned, and utterly unprepared. At 6:45 a.m., lookouts spot flashes on the northern horizon. Moments later, giant water spouts erupt around the carriers. Shells from battleships 20 miles away. The Japanese fleet has arrived. What follows is one of the most extraordinary and unequal fights in naval history. The escort carriers, barely capable of 19 knots, begin to run. They turn east and flee, launching every plane they can. Pilots take off armed with whatever they have: half-loaded rockets, machine guns, even depth charges meant for submarines. "Scratch one flat top," a Japanese officer shouts as his shells straddle Gambier Bay. But the Americans refuse to die quietly. From the sky, Avengers dive through flak, dropping bombs on battleships far larger than anything they were built to face. Wildcats strafe the bridge of cruisers, firing their last bullets before deliberately flying low to distract enemy gunners. On the water, destroyers charge forward, releasing smoke screens to shield the carriers. The USS Johnston leads the attack. Her commander, Commander Ernest Evans, gives a simple order: "We're going in." He knows the odds. He knows it's suicide. But he charges anyway. The Johnston roars forward, firing torpedoes at Japanese heavy cruisers 5 times her size. Shells smash into her hull, tearing it open. Yet she keeps fighting. When her guns run dry, her crew fires with anything they can find. Even as the ship sinks, her men keep manning their stations. Nearby, the destroyer Hull charges next, followed by the Heermann. Together, They weave through fire like angry wasps, striking again and again. And from above, the pilots of Taffy 3 make run after run, some unarmed, some nearly out of fuel, but all refusing to retreat. They radio to one another. "I'm out of ammo, but I'll make a pass anyway." In the chaos, something unbelievable happens. The Japanese admiral, Kurita, begins to hesitate. He cannot believe that such a small American force would attack so ferociously unless larger reinforcements were nearby. Convinced he's facing the main U.S. carrier fleet, he orders a withdrawal. The greatest armada of battleships in the Pacific turns away. Beaten not by superior firepower, but by courage, the price is terrible. Gambier Bay sinks, riddled with shellfire. St. Lo is struck by one of the first kamikaze attacks in history and explodes. Johnston, Hull, and Samuel B. Roberts all go down fighting. But their sacrifice saves thousands of lives and the entire invasion force. For their heroism, dozens of men are awarded the Navy Cross. Commander Evans receives the Medal of Honor, posthumously. His last recorded words were, "A fighting ship can do no more." In that moment, the escort carriers earn a new name, the Tin Can Heroes. They prove that in war, steel and size matter less than spirit. The victory at Leyte Gulf breaks the back of the Japanese Navy. Never again will it challenge the U.S. fleet in open battle. The escort carriers, once mocked and underestimated, become symbols of resilience. They will go on to serve in Okinawa, Iwo Jima, and beyond, always where the fight is hardest. When the war finally ends, the great fleet carriers receive the headlines, but history remembers the escort carriers differently, not as giants, but as guardians. They were ships of ordinary men who did extraordinary things. Each one carried its own small world. Pilots, mechanics, cooks, medics, sailors, all bound by a single mission: to protect, to fight, and to endure. Many of these ships will be scrapped after the war, their decks dismantled, their names forgotten. But their legacy remains, not in steel, but in spirit. Because the story of the escort carriers is not just about ships or strategy. It's about human endurance, innovation, and courage under impossible odds. It's a story of men who turned the tide of war, not by being the strongest, but by refusing to surrender. In every war, there are heroes history almost forgets. But stories like this, of the small ships that faced giants, remind us that courage often comes from the unlikeliest places. If you were moved by this story, don't let it fade. Subscribe to the channel for more untold stories of World War II, stories of courage, sacrifice, and the power of the human spirit. And when this video ends, keep watching right here on your screen. We've curated more powerful documentaries that reveal the hidden battles and forgotten heroes of history. Dive deeper, discover more, because history doesn't end, it waits to be told.